Chair. Now we will hear from our first panel of witnesses. I ask that you limit your testimony to 5 minutes. Without objection, your entire statement will be included in the record. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the distinguished gentleman from Massachusetts, Congressman Jim McGovern, co-chair of the House Hunger Caucus. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And Chairman Lewis and Chairman McDermott, Ranking Member Bustani, Ranking Member Linder, and members of both subcommittees, thank you for allowing me to testify before you today. And I commend you for holding this important hearing and looking into this critical issue. I'm also grateful to be here with my colleagues, Congressman Bozeman and Congressman Moran, who have worked with me in a bipartisan way to try to deal with some of these issues relating to hunger. And I commend their leadership on this issue. Ending hunger here at home is one of my passions. I have committed myself to doing everything I can to end hunger here in the United States. Hunger is not a partisan issue, but it is a political condition. We are the richest, most prosperous nation in the world, and yet we still haven't found the political will to end hunger. And the political will has been lacking over the years by not just Democrats, but by Republicans. So there is a bipartisan indifference that has occurred on this issue for many, many years, and we need to change that. And that's why these hearings are so important. It is up to us to shine a bright light on this problem. It is up to us to act together to end the scourge of hunger here at home. On Monday, as has been already noted, the Department of Agriculture released their annual report on food insecurity in the United States. Simply, this report measures the number of hungry people here in the U.S. The fact that we're even talking about people going hungry is embarrassing and flat out wrong. Unfortunately, we found out that hunger is getting worse in America, not better. The statistics and findings are startling, frightening, and unacceptable. The report found that 49 million Americans are food insecure. Of those, 17 million children, more than 1 in 5, went without food at some point during the year, an increase of 5 million children over the previous year. Even worse, the number of children living in very low food insecure households, the hungriest of the hungry, rose from 323,000 in 2007 to 506,000 in 2008. That means that almost 2 million children are among the hungriest of the hungry in America. Race and gender are also factors. About 37% of single mothers struggle for food in 2008. And more disturbing, more than 1 in 7 said someone in their household had been hungry. And the report found that African Americans and Hispanics were more than twice as likely as whites to report food insecurity at home. If that weren't bad enough, we know that next year's food insecurity numbers will likely be even worse than those released earlier this year. Hunger here in the United States is not the same as hunger around the world. We don't see mass starvation, sunken eyes, and swollen bellies here at home like we do in other parts of the world. Instead, hunger is manifested in different ways, both undernourishment in lower weight people, but also in obesity and obesity-related health problems like diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. The chief reason is the anti-hunger safety net that has been developed and funded over the past decades. Programs like food stamps, now called SNAP, the school meal programs, WIC, TFAP, make up the safety net that prevents people from slipping into starvation. Yet, despite the success of these programs, we still have 49 million people who go hungry each year. Of course, the real question is how much worse would hunger be without these safety net programs. And you're going to hear how the current economy is causing more people to turn to these safety net programs. We all know that the economy is bad, that our friends and neighbors are hurting. Food banks and food pantries are on the front lines of the fight against hunger. When the economy worsens, food banks and food pantries see people that normally don't have to rely on help from others. There are countless stories and news articles showing how middle-class families who used to donate to food banks are now relying on boxes of food simply to make ends meet. Chairman Lewis and McDermott, the people who run the food banks and food pantries are my heroes. Many donate their time and money out of the goodness of their own hearts. It breaks their hearts to see many of their neighbors who used to donate food now being forced to rely on the kindness of others in order to make ends meet. Food banks and food pantries face extraordinary difficulties and pressures because of the current economy. And I strongly encourage you, if you haven't already done so, visit some of these food banks. and these food pantries. If you're interested, I'm also happy with talking to you and your staffs about other things you can do in your districts. Finally, while I believe we can end hunger in our lifetimes, I can't state strongly enough that I believe we need White House leadership on this issue. I introduced a bill, H.R. 1869, that calls for a White House conference on food and nutrition. A White House conference would bring together experts in food, health, and nutrition and economic security to develop a plan not only to end hunger once and for all in the United States, but also require that proper nutrition is to be taken into account in such a plan. Ending hunger is the moral thing to do, but it's also critical that we address the issues associated with the rising cost of food and health care, increased obesity rates, and the health problems associated with obesity, poor nutrition, and hunger. I think a White House conference can help coordinate such an effort. The response to hunger, even in Congress, falls under the jurisdiction of multiple committees. In the administration, it falls under the jurisdiction of multiple agencies and departments. We need to bring them together, to work together, to come up with a single plan to address this issue and end hunger once and for all. I would just say in conclusion that as much as I admire our food banks and our food pantries, I would like to see them extinct. I would like to see a time in this country where we don't need food banks and we don't need food pantries. I want to address the root causes of hunger. I want to make sure that people not only have enough to eat but have increased purchasing power so that they don't need to rely on food banks and food pantries and our governmental safety net. So this is a big issue, but it is solvable. This is one of these issues that we can solve if we have the political will, if we work together, and I'm confident that we will, and I thank you very much for holding this hearing.
Thank you very much.